Hi, I'm Blake Repine, and welcome to Strategy, Leadership, and Impact. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. I hope you've been well since the last episode. Just want to ask you, if you've been listening to the podcast and you like it, if you could, just please go on the platform that you listen on and give the podcast a review. Let us know what you think. Again, that actually helps promote the podcast and actually helps spread it to more listeners. Anyway, so on to this week's episode. I'm doing things a little bit different today. It's actually just after 5:30 in the morning, and I'm actually doing a walk, about a 5-kilometer walk with a 20-kilo weighted vest on, just kind of taking it easy, bit of active recovery today from lifting. And as I was walking, I really just started thinking about a few conversations I've had, not just recently, but over the last, I'd say, years with friends of mine and acquaintances and things like that. And it's all around doing things and getting things done and really having the courage to do things. And it's quite interesting. Just in this podcast alone, so many people I talk to, they say, I want to start a podcast or a YouTube channel or a blog or a company or whatever it might be. But they always say, I can't. Either they feel like they don't have the skills or they don't have the time or whatever it might be. And usually when it comes back to the time commitment thing, I say, well, don't say you don't have the time. Make the statement that it's not a priority, because we make time for things that are priorities. And whenever it comes back to not having the skills, most people, you're able to acquire skills fairly quickly. And, there's a wealth of information out there on YouTube, on other websites and things where you can go and search for the information that you need in order to develop those skills. And also, you're not going to develop those skills unless you actually start doing things a lot of times. If you want to do a podcast, find the audio recording, audio editing software that you want to use, download it, go on YouTube. I almost guarantee there'd probably be a plethora of videos out there on how to use whatever software it is you want to use and learn how to use it and trial some, do some short audio, just pick up whatever it is you're going to use record, and then practice editing it. There's tons of advice around there. And if there's other things you don't understand necessarily about it, then outsource it. Find someone who knows that will either teach you or do it for you. There potentially could be a cost involved with that, but there might not be. Somebody, a friend of yours or an acquaintance of yours might be willing to show you how to do that or walk you through the process just because they're willing to help. But the biggest thing I think a lot of this comes down to is courage. When I did my TEDx talk a few years ago now, so many people came up to me afterwards and said, I would love to do that, but I can't. And of course, my question to them is, why can't you? Because there's nobody stopping them from doing it. And usually they say, my ideas aren't good enough, or, I'm just not good enough public speaker, or I'm afraid to get up there in front of those people. Well, I was afraid too. I was, scared out of my mind when I went up there, nervous as, thinking, am I going to fail? Is it going to be horrible? And it wasn't. People aren't necessarily going to ridicule you. They're going to give you that much respect just because you had the courage to get up on the stage and do it. And sometimes you just need to believe in yourself a little bit, or at least fake it till you make it, and then get up there and do it. And you'll see it's not that bad. It's not as bad as you thought. And then the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get with it, and the easier it'll become, just like anything else. We all weren't born with the ability to walk, but we kept trying until eventually we were able to do it. The same thing with talking. Some of us, and even nowadays, I still have problems talking. I trip over my words all the time. But it's something that we get better at over time. Anything you do with repetition comes mastery. So don't be afraid to start. Just get started. Allow that podcast or that YouTube channel to be not so good at the beginning, but you're going to get better. And that's the thing. Review what you're doing. Review what you're putting out there and try to make it better for the next time. And then over time, you'll find that your quality will really improve greatly. And your abilities to be able to do these things and your comfort level with them will improve quite quickly as well. The thing is, just get started. Just take that first step is all it takes. And once you've taken that first step, you'll find that things get so much easier on the back end. Sometimes that's the hardest thing, is just to get started. And sometimes you might fail. You might start whatever it is that you want to do, and it might not work out, or you might find that you actually don't want to do it like you thought you did. And that's okay too. Just whenever you realize that, stop and go on to something else. Again, I go back to kind of Seth Godin's book, The Dip, where he talks about, people get stuck in these cul-de-sacs and they can't get out because they keep trying to make things work. But actually really successful people, they quit, and they quit often, they quit quickly when they realize either this isn't something I want to do, it's not in line with what I enjoy as I thought it was, or there's a high probability that I'm never going to succeed no matter how much time and resources I put into this project, and they quit, and they cut their losses, and they move on. And being able to forget, just because you fail 1 time, 2 times, 99 times, doesn't mean that you're a failure. It just means that those things didn't work out. But with each one of those, you're learning and you're getting better. So your chances of success the next time you attempt something are even higher. And over time, you're going to succeed. Just got to keep pushing. You just got to keep, some people say you just got to keep hustling. But just keep putting yourself out there. But the point is, you have to get started at some point. Everybody who is now that big name that you recognize, or that face that you recognize, they all started somewhere. Nobody started out automatically, exactly who they are and this big famous person, if that's your goal. Or nobody's podcast was successful the first time they put it out and get 1 million downloads. That's not going to happen. It takes time. But the thing is, if you ever want to get to that point, you have to get started at some point. That is a guarantee. You have to at least start. And if you never start, then you're never going to achieve whatever it is you want to achieve. A lot of times people will forgive, things not being perfect, as long as your idea or your content or whatever it is you're putting out is relevant or good. And now I said relevant. That doesn't mean, it has to be this amazing epiphany that you're, bestowing on, your listeners or your readers or whatever it is out there. It doesn't have to be this great, huge innovation that you're bringing onto, into the business world or your industry or whatever it is. It just has to be relevant, and it has to be useful. And in your perspective, a lot of times, because we, I guess, know what we know, a lot of times we assume that other people know it already as well. And that's not always the case. Because you know something doesn't necessarily mean somebody else knows it. And if you want to share that with them, go ahead. And those people are going to be the ones that pick up whatever it is you're putting out, because they want to know what you know. And that's good. There's a lot of people out there that don't know what you know. There's nobody out there has the same perspective that you do around the subject that you're talking about, or that you're presenting, or the business that you're bringing up. So your perspective is unique, whether you know that or not. So don't be afraid to put it out there. Don't be so self-critical that you're limiting yourself from achieving whatever it is you want to achieve. Anyway, I'd really like to know what you think about this subject. And if you'd like, again, connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search my name, Blake Repine. Send me a connection request. Send me a message. Let's have a discussion. Or you can email me at blakerepine@gmail.com. Anyway, I hope you have a great time between now and the next episode, and we'll talk soon. See you next time.